party people, this is Jeremy for MVM, and today I'm here with another Kickstarter preview of Shiver Timbers, which is a game for 2 to 4 players, plays in about 90 to 180 minutes, and in this game you are doing piratey things. So you are basically taking a role of a pirate trying to complete life goals. This is going to score you the most points, but it's also an open sandbox where you're going to be doing different types of things. Of course, you can be a war kind of mongering pirate and plunder ships and duke it out and duel in this game, and you can actually do that in this game. You can increase your speed and upgrade it so you can get across and trade different resources and pick them up and sell them. You can gather a bigger crew and start to do different things a lot more easier. Find treasure and go find your lost family members. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do. This is very much a sandbox game, but I want to show you how it works, and also I'm going to show you this sweet little component, and that will probably be a big selling point for you, so you may want to stick around. So let's go ahead and get to the boards and see what's going on in Shiver Timbers. All right, party people, let's talk about the setup, and I'm going to try to get to the gameplay as fast as possible. I don't want to sit here and be an instruction booklet for you all day, so let's get to it. What are you trying to do? You're trying to score points in this game, and one of the biggest ways you score points is by setting life goals. During the player setup, you're going to get your own set of tokens and all this stuff, but one of the first major choices is these tokens right here, which touch on the life goals. Okay, so they have the same format as the board over here for the life goals, and you're going to choose as many life goals as players +1, and all these different goals are going to kind of steer where you want to go, although you can do whichever ones you want. You just get a bonus of 5 points for completing the ones that you have chosen at the beginning of the game. They stay hidden. So you can be a brigand, you can defeat 2 fortresses, you can find 3 long lost family members, you can take over X amount of ships, turn in X amount of dollars, find 3 hidden treasure chests, things like that. And as you do that and you fulfill them, you'll put your marker on them and you'll score 10 or 5 points. So these are really big chunks of games, chunks of points, but it also drives the end game. So it's still a lot of a race that's going on in this game. Now, for your actual player setup, you get a board. This board actually represents your ship. It's going to have spots for your origin, and origin is basically going to be a place of one of the 6 islands, that are in the game, and it's going to go over there. But it also gives you some starting resources or cards to kind of build up your initial beginning. Where are you from, and the stuff that you get. You'll also have these traits. So these traits are basically additions to the actions that you have in the game. You may be a better treasure hunter, so you'll start out further on the spaces. You may have a fast ship, so you get +1 to speed. You may get an extra card during dueling and things like that. So these are like little trait skills you have during the game as well. You're also going to have spots for your long lost family members as well. They're going to have their little spot here on the board. There's a space for 3, and they give you additional abilities when we find them out and about in the sea, and our quests and treasures and a lot of different things that happen. But yeah, you can find these lost family members. You also have a spot for treasure cards. So as you do this, you'll keep that on your boat. And you may also want to tuck that away, and we'll talk about that in a second. And you also have a spot for money. In the beginning of the game, you'll have 300 of them, 300 coins. They come in denominations of 1, 500, and 1,000 doubloons. And what you want to do is if you have these treasures and a lot of money, you want to keep them in your treasure chest. And if you do, you keep these safe so nobody can take them away from you. If the players want to take them away from you, or they pull a certain card that takes things away from you, if it's in here, it's protected. If it's not, it can be taken away. So you definitely want to make sure you pick and choose what you're doing and when you do it. But finally, last but not least, and you do get a player aid, you get a treasure mat, and those things are not necessarily, I call them part of the setup. But lastly, you have your boat. I'm looking at this prototype boat here, and yeah, this is the part of the game that people are going to be looking for most, right? It's a boat that you actually build and show your upgrades in speed, your strength as far as your body, as far as carrying resources, and your attack abilities on the side with these guns on the front and on both sides there. So yeah, we're going to talk about this today. Help you make an informed decision and kind of see how this one works. But let me go ahead and show you how the board's made, and then we'll get right to the gameplay. The map in Shiver Timbers is actually made by the players. Players are going to take turns placing either one of these long pieces right here that have 7 spots on here, or these ones that are small and then attaching one of the islands. Now these islands have like these little spikes, as you can see, and you can attach them however you want, and players can rotate these things to make whatever combination or formation they want, and they do come together. Now what's interesting about these spots is they all, these bigger ones have these like specialty spots on here that give players bonuses and opportunities to get treasures and different actions based on when they want to stop there. I'll kind of say that again during the travel phase, but the travel action, but I just want to let you know, like this one right here gives extra strength to attacks on the route. This one is called the Ancient Shipyard. You roll a white die there, could possibly give you some upgrades. It's got a little an extra actions. You have this one right here, which is the Floating Marker, gives you extra money. And then you have this green one here, which is the Mangroves, which also will give you resources. So really interesting, cool places to stop during the game, but you're going to be building this strategically however you want to go, paying attention to your origin story, so maybe you can hit the right things. Maybe you got a treasure card to start out the game so you can figure out where you want to go. That's kind of interesting. But when you have these islands, each island is also going to have its own like little flag that shows you what you can do at that island and the actions that go on there, and you have choices to do that with your actions. Also, each of these islands will have these fortresses on there right there, and these are really difficult to beat, but they also give you victory points, and they give you a ton of money, at least $2,000. Now, as you're building your map, you're also going to be putting out these merchant ships. These are the weaker ships, but they are worth victory points when you fight them. You're going to be able to flip them over and see what they're, how strong they are. But as these chips go away, they are going to become a lot tougher, and they're going to become these red chips, which are harder and more aggressive ones as well. It's not like they're going to chase you around, but this is, these are going to be the tougher ones. You're also going to have, and I didn't grab these, you're also going to have these markers out here. These are like the travel win conditions that are added to the game each round, and they change each round through this big stack of them. But we'll kind of talk about this a little bit more in travel. But that's basically the setup for the game. Just know that all this stuff can change based on your choices and your opponents, and even some cards that will change the makeup on the map, and you get to move it around. Really interesting stuff, but let's actually get to the gameplay. And we're off into the gameplay, and it really starts with a whole bunch of different actions that players can do on their turn, but I'll just kind of explain them as I go along. I believe there's 10 actions, but really it's just a combination of very easy things that go on during the game. They kind of combo together. But each player's turn are going to take 3 actions, and everybody's going to take 3 actions, and then we're going to refresh the board at the end, and we'll continue to do this until there's no set rounds. It's done until the life goals, all but one of the life goals is fulfilled, and that's between any combination of the players. Now, what we're doing on our turn mostly is going to be traveling. We're going to be traveling across these boards that we created in our little ship paths that we created, and they have these spots here, right here. And how do you know how many spots you can travel in the game? You're going to be looking at your ship. One of the ships does a lot of details and tells you what your ability level is at. So for example, right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm counting the skull and crossbones on there, and that will tell me. And as I upgrade, I start at 3, and then I can slowly upgrade and buy my way up and add these things to my ship. So when you're traveling, you may stumble into one of these ships on the board, and if you do stop there, and there are places that you can stop like this, you can actually scout to see what their levels are at and whether you want to attack them or not. You also can stop at one of these middle spots like I talked about before, and they do give benefits like the mangroves, where I can get extra resources if I roll correct, if I roll a good fortune roll. So you have that, and then you're going to also maybe stumble into actually I just thought about this, you can also stumble into a serpent. These are one of the spots that can go over one of these right here, and you can stop and fight it. It won't chase you or anything like that, but you can actually go and fight one of the kraken or sea monster. Yeah, I just find that crazy. Every time I say that, it's just crazy to me. So, but you eventually will find yourself at these islands, and that's where another huge chunk of the actions happen in this game. Now, each one of these is different, so you're going to prioritize, like, why do I want to go to this island, Port Royal? That's because I can pick up missions there. Why do I want to go to La Juanita? Because I can pick up treasure maps there. I want to go to Isla Oscura because this is where the ritual cards are. But there are also things where you can buy and sell. So there's trade. There's a trade action in the game. So a lot of these places have different rates of things you can buy and things you can sell there. And of course, there's a little bit of a conversion rate. So maybe you're trying to sync that up. Another thing that you can do is get treasure cards. So there are accepting treasures. These treasures have a separate board with a map, and what you do is you calculate, you get a mission card, and it will tell you how far that mission is on this little map board here. So it can be between 1 and I think 30 spots here. And of course, the further the treasure, the harder it is. And then it will tell you, okay, where you start. You'll take one of your markers and start there. And slowly, according to your strength, let's say my current ship right now is a strength of 3. So since it has a strength of 3, I can only move 3 spots per action. If I land on any one of these die numbers right here, these die spots right here, I can roll a die and add resources and possible extra additional actions. That's because a white die gives some extra awesome benefits, but you rarely hit them. And eventually you will get down to where the treasure is. And when you do, it will become part of your player board, okay? And you can decide to sell it, or you can also just take the benefit, but it has to be out on your board in order to do so. You might want to tuck that away in your treasure chest. But that's that action right there. So that's the treasure. You may also take missions. These missions will require you to travel far distances in one turn, turn in a certain amount of money, trade resources, all those different types of things. When you do these, of course, you receive a specific reward. They can also give you ship upgrades, more money, things like that as well. You'll always be able to look at 3 of these and then choose one, which is awesome. You also can go to certain islands to get mates. You know, you need a crew. You need that piratey crew. And they do a wide range of things. Of course, they'll give you strength. Of course, they'll give you resources. But they also may be able to call a sea serpent. That's ridiculous. Or I can move my mothership to the closest island. So they're going to help you move around. They're going to help you with attacks, things like that. This is really interesting, but you must pay them. So you got to remember, you got to pay your crew, man. Then you have these rituals. Now, rituals actually show up in some of these quests that you need to do, or missions you need to do, but they are pretty much the wacky interaction of the game. Why am I saying wacky? But Raising the Dead, gain +3 attacks for fortresses until this turn. You may need this. We'll talk about attacks in a second. This one gives you an upgrade, but you're sacrificing things for this each time you do these. This one's called the Kraken. So this is a big one right here. So you're calling the big Kraken. This is a big beast, big rewards, big payoffs. But yeah, you got to sacrifice all 3 resources to get that. And yeah, there's just a wide range of these cards. I'm not even going to show you all of them, but that's the majority of the things that go on at these islands, and that is the majority of your actions. I just want to make sure I got it here, treasures, actions, and we're going to talk about actually fighting in this game. But first, I want to get to the upgrading system so you can see exactly how this component works. All right, a cool component time. So I have this ship. In the beginning, it actually is a bare bones ship, has 3 of these resource spots, only 3 speed, so only like 3 of these things. I should probably put the little one on up here. Hey, if anything's fall down, this is a prototype, so I've been flimsying it around and futzing around with this. So I would start with 3, and then I can upgrade it to 4 and 5 and 6, and as you can see, I can pretty much, well, let's see, we'll put it all in here. We got potentially could have quite a bit of speed, which will go up to 7. The max upgrade is 7. Well, how do you do it? It costs money. So if I wanted to upgrade from 3 speed to 4 speed, I have to pay 400. So it's 100 more than the current level I'm at. If I wanted to go to 5, I would have to pay 500 to blooms. So that's basically how that works. But now you can see how the ship would develop over the course of the game. Now the guns are a little bit different. They go on the side here and they represent your strength, but you automatically have one up front. That's kind of how the guns work. So I now have 1, 2, 3, and then if I were to get more, I take these little peg looking things and they go right inside the ship here. Hopefully I do a perfect job of putting them in here for the camera. But yeah, you're just putting them in there and you got your cannons. And this, I mean, this is all really interesting kind of stuff here. But yeah, that's how you put them in. But then you also have your resources here that are in the middle, and you pull this out. You pull it out, and then you put another little storage notch in here, like so. Put it back in here, and then boom. And by later in the game, you'll be able to roll these and add resources. But as you can see, during the game, your ship will stretch out. It will get bigger. It will represent how fast you are, or how strong and dominant you are. Or hey, man, I'm just a trader. I'm trying to get from here to there. Leave me alone. All right. So let's say you're all souped up, ready to go, and you're ready to start doing some fighting. This is, of course, the real swashbuckling pirate stuff you've been looking for. So let's go ahead and take a look at how it goes. What's a pirate game without combat, right? So there's different types of combat in this game. You're going to have gunship fights where the speed of your ship helps determine whether you can catch one of these, your opponent or one of the NPC merchant ships in the game. So what are you looking for? So remember I was saying before you could stop on one of these merchant ships right here and take a look at them. Well, you can also take an action to actually do a gunship fight. Now, these ships will tell you the size of their size of their hull with all the resources they have. It'll also tell you their speed. And this one here has a speed of 2, and this one has a strength of 4. And that's all important because you want to find out, can you beat them up real quick, right? So I have a speed of 4, and they have a speed of 2. So I outquick them. So therefore, my cannons are hitting them. So I automatically give them this 1 gem, and that reduces their strength down to 3. All right, so maybe I want to do it for my second action again, and then I reduce their strength again, reduces it down to 2. Now I'm ready to board their ship, and that's where this part, capturing the ship, comes into play. So now that I have a difference of 2, I'm going to take this little thing right here and take them to the life board there, but there's a little plank area right there, and I will put this little dueling thing right here, 2 spaces into their side. So basically I'm trying to knock them off their ship. And basically if there's a gap of 4, they just fall off the ship and you win automatically. So yeah, you're doing that. And how do you actually play this out? There's a deck of these cards, these small cards, and each player is going to get 4 of them. And they have different levels of attack, high, middle, and low. Attacks for 1 hit, 2 hit, and 3 hit. And you're basically trying to, attack, and then you get a chance to defend. And it's pretty straightforward, but there's also these cards in here in the middle, like Rig, which has an unblockable attack, and draw 1 card. You have one that's called Insult, so you're throwing insults at this person, and then your opponent discards a card. And there's also things like throwing sand in your face. There's all these like little silly thematic things, and this is a really interesting little mechanism in this game. And if you haven't noticed, treasure maps, like I'm about to show you the Kraken, these things right here, just small little nuggets in there that make this game interesting. So if you win, you get the resource on here, all right? And the harder ones, the harder they are, the bigger. I have one here for 600 for the small one, and for the red ones, I have one here for 2 Gs, okay? So it's sort of the similar payoff and loss if you fight your opponent. So like I say, you're fighting an opponent and you outquick them, you would roll a die for gunship battle, and if you get something that knocks off one of their pieces, it knocks off one of their pieces. If you're in a dueling battle, you do the same thing with the dueling as you would in any other thing, difference in strength, things like that. But the losses are where it hurts. So if you lose to the NPC, you lose an upgrade. If you tie, nothing happens. But if you lose to a player, that hurts because they could take half your money, they could take a treasure card, they can do all kinds of stuff to you. So it's really important that you keep that stuff in your treasure chest that you don't want taken, because it is important, all right? It is important to you. You need to hide it, but I know you may sacrifice some of the abilities you have. But that's really the basics of combat as far as that goes between ships. But then you also can raid these fortresses, and those will be on some of your mission cards as well, by the way. But what's really cool about these is that they have different like little twists on the gameplay. Not only are you going to be attacking these, but it may change it up on you. So let's see here, and they're also very difficult. This one says this is 9 strength, so you got to be pretty much at max strength. And it says each player can pay 500 gold to increase the strength of the fortress by +1. So now players can make it harder for you to win. All right, so that's one right there. Let's see. This is one that's an 8. It says any ship 7 or less spaces away can move here, fight you instead of the fortress, and players decide in clockwise order. The fortress remains undefeated in this case. I mean, they're not even letting you fight them, right? So you have these. These are super tough, but they're worth 2,000 points, and they're also worth 2,000 money, but they're also worth points. Now, I should have even said this too, but when you fight a player and you do defeat them, you actually get a coin which is worth money as well. This coin that shows you that you've defeated them, and you get money for it. Points for it at the end of the game. So, all right, let's say you want to get physical with these two sea creatures. What you're going to do is land on their spot, stop there, and attack them just like you would a ship. You'll start with a marker right here, and kind of think of this similar to what I was showing you at the treasure map. You start at a spot, and then you take an action and you move a certain amount of spots. Except these have sections where the size of your ship matters, and then another section where the speed of your ship matters. So if the size of my ship is 4, I move 4 spots on this thing right here. If I land on a die, like this blue one, that blue one would be my wind die basically, so I move a certain amount of spaces, add or subtract. If I roll this red die, that could be a disaster for me because it can just take off upgrades of my ship. Makes sense thematically, right? So I also have the ability to get rid of one of my resources to move an extra spot for free, or I can give up one of my treasures to move 5 spots. So I have a couple choices to kind of make this process go as fast as possible, and of course dodge these possible bad situations as we go along. So when you win, you are going to get to look through the stack. Now these tokens are going to be worth 4 points, so you definitely want to make sure you do them. But then you're also going to have the chance to get 4 upgrades, treasure, money, all kinds of stuff. So that's a really cool endeavor. Nice little thematic thing going on as well. But that's the combat in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and close out the round and then show you how to do the end game. And once everybody's taken their turn, we are going to refresh the board basically. We're going to add some new ships back to the board. Those can be white ships or red ships, just depending how far you are in the game. As you whittle down that stack, you'll get to these tougher red ones. You'll also change the win token for the round. So I have a 0 now, I flip a new one over, and now I have 2. So now we're going to be moving a lot faster next round. There's also a plague token that may be on an island that will flip back and forth as well. And that's basically it for your round. But you also want to check for the end game, because once players have finished all but one of the life goals, at the end of that round, the end game triggers. So we'll take a look at that board. First of all, you're going to have how many points did you score? Were you first placed? You got 10 points. If you were the second person to finish that, you got 5. But you also, in the beginning of the game, remember you had to choose these 2 life goals, and they were by the position on the board here. You had these hidden the whole game. So when you do that, you actually get an extra 5 points if you completed one of those. So got to pay attention to that. Don't forget that strategy. But you also have different things that you would get points for during the game. Don't forget about the treasures that you've completed, or your missions that you completed, or your treasures, okay? Don't forget about the ships that you've attacked during the game, the fortresses you may have attacked, the Kraken, the players that you may have attacked. Don't forget about the family members that you had, that you found along the way that gave you these awesome abilities. And also the money, okay? So for every 1,000 coins you have, you get 1 point. So you're going to tally all that up, and hopefully you had a wonderful pirate journey, and whoever has the most points wins the game. And if you still have a tie, it's whoever completed the least missions for the governor, which is actually one of the life goals as well, like how many missions you complete for the governor, so you won't win that tiebreaker. And then the next one has to do with money, and then there's a shared victory. So hopefully you had a wonderful journey. Let's go ahead and get to my final thoughts on Shiver Me Timbers. All right, party people, final thoughts here on Shiver Me Timbers. Now, it's really all comes down to this ship, right? You're going to have your life goals. You're going to score points by completing your life goals and the ones that you chose for the game, going around the board, buying and selling, fighting ships, finding lost family members, finding treasures, completing these gold cards that are in the game, or mission cards that are in the game. Those are all going to score you points. But you only will care if this ship is cool enough to keep your interest during the game. Well, all I can tell you is there's a lot of boxes being checked by this game, and it really starts with what you can do, right? So you can expand this ship and fly around that board and get the treasure, find the treasures you want, and also get the resources you want, buy and sell them, and you feel it. You can be an attack ship, so then you go and attack all these merchant ships, and you play like this little mini, push and pull card game, like almost like a rock and sock of card game, and that feels very thematic. So you have all these different types of things that really, like I said, check all those boxes. Throw in some Pirates of the Caribbean slash Sinbad stuff with the mystical ritual powers, and then also just having crew members. It's all there, and just having these big treasure chests, it all feels piratey. It feels, it really hits what I think myself would be looking for in a pirate game, and maybe it will do the same for you. As you can see, very excited about this project, but I can't really tell you too much more of my opinion, and I can never tell anybody what to do with their money. I just want to help you make an informed backing decision. And with that, party people, if you have questions, you can leave them in the comments below. We'll have the Kickstarter link as well. Feel free to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for your time watching this Kickstarter preview, and you have a wonderful day.